Another way is, what do you tend to depend on for making your default mode of decision making? If you had to say, do I take this job and move to New York? Do I take this job and move to the West Coast? Core decision in life, default mode when all's quiet. What do you tend to depend on? Now, if you're money-centered, what would you depend on? What's going to be the return on this? See? If it's like, oh, I'm going to roll it in, you're moving. Now, think about how that works. Maybe you're married. And so you've got a chance to go to the West Coast, take a new job. It's going to just rake in the money. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. Now, you go home and talk to your spouse. Are you into consensus decision-making, or are you into selling? See, if you're money-centered, what are you into? Selling. You're going. The only question is she coming? You know? Because your center is the money. So you've. On the other hand, let's suppose your center was your relationship with your spouse. Now you go home, and the whole question of that work opportunity really revolves around how she feels or he feels, see? Depending on what that center is. Security, where you get your security, guidance, how you make decisions, what you depend on for influence. That's an interesting one, your default mode for influence. In other words, if you're money-centered, your paradigm of influence is everybody has a price. Now, it took me a while to find yours. Now I got it. See? And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you gather information that validates that view of the world. Everybody has a price. And you tend to reject information that indicates to you that that's not the way everybody operates. And we become set in these views of the world, see? If we're money-centered. Have you ever known anybody that's money-centered? See? Well, you can take any of these things, money, possessions, work. I know that wouldn't apply to anybody here. Pleasure, things, you know, or any combination. These are just illustrations. But if they're our center, they become the window through which we view the world. Now, what's the problem with any of those things or any combination of those things if they're at the center? Now, one is it skews others, doesn't it? So if I'm money-centered, I view my family as a huge expense. Yeah. If I'm work-centered, my family's a big guilt trip. Okay. If I'm family-centered, work is a necessary evil. Isn't that exciting to go to your necessary evil every day? You know, see? See, it skews the other views. But even more importantly, can you kind of do everything right and lose your spouse? Yeah. Can you kind of do everything right and lose your job, your money, your stuff? Yeah. Now, if your sense of who you are at the core is tied into the stuff, or to the money, or even a spouse, and you lose it, what's left? Sometimes, not a lot. You see this dramatically sometimes in the performance arts or the performance sports, where somebody's spent their whole life, say, playing a game or something, and they're world class, and then they've had an injury which they can essentially never again do that thing that they do. Now, some have a life, and others it's like there's nothing left. It's tragedy. Because their life, their center, was that performance and the ability to do that thing. Now, we talk about leadership. Being a leader. Being someone at home or at work that makes a difference. What are the most effective leaders? The most effective. Well, our studies have shown that we think the most effective leaders are those who have at their core principles. Now, why is this important? Well, think about it. If you're principle-centered, do you have a principle like kindness, honesty, courage, character traits? And everything goes nuts around you. Where do you get your integrity? Where do you get your strength? By how closely you live that principle, right? Can you be kind can you be kind in any situation? If you chose to. Who can take that away from you? Nobody. You can only give it away. Principle-centered leaders have fundamental principles that they deeply value, that are at their core. And it's how they make decisions. It's where they get their identity, from this integrity to principle instead of from external realities. See, because all those things on the outside of the wheel could be external. They can change. But what's inside us, that's what doesn't change. And that's what gives us the strength and the capacity and the consistency to deal with the changes and challenges of life.